mess with the best, die like the rest. You like that?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
It's a Marine bumper sticker. I'm kind of fond of it myself. It's why we need those guys, right? But there are some among them who are particularly unhinged. They can't switch it off. And they leave bodies on the field. And they dishonor a glorious past. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. We will fight our country's battles on land and air and sea. Woo!
I come from a long line of fucked up women. Like my great-grandmother, Lorena. She married this guy named James. He's the finest bulldozer driver in the county. Except he always reeks of booze. One morning, 2 a.m., Lorena lay down on the floor of their shack and she cut the umbilical cord to their newborn baby girl, my grandmother. James stormed out, didn't come back for 3 days. Rosemarie, Rose for short. She named her that because that was the name of her great-grandmother on her mother's side. Or maybe it was her father's side. She doesn't remember because she liked to drink too. She always had a glass of something in her hand, especially when she was listening to the Lone Ranger on the radio. When James was there, they'd both get drunk. And they'd fight. James would beat her up. Hey, leave Mom alone. Hey, leave Mom alone. Hey, leave Mom alone! And that's what he'd do. He'd just leave. One day, when Rose was about 12, Lorena packed up and moved to San Francisco. But she would write Rose every day. And Rose would stand there and she'd wait for the mailman to come. And she'd tear open the letter. Dear Rose, I miss you very much. Take care of your brother and your sister. Don't get into fights with your father. I love you. So, one morning Rose put on her best plaid skirt, cracked open her piggy bank, and bought a ticket to San Francisco. Mom? Mom? And then Lorena, she stumbled to the door of the seedy hotel room. And when she opened it, Rose could see bottles, empty bottles all over the floor. But she still wanted to stay. Maybe someday. And Lorena held Rose so tight until Rose began to kick and scream and flail, and then the cops came and took her away. A while after that, Rose met this guy named Clarence, and he took her to see Johnny Guitar because he knew that she liked westerns, and then they got married. Clarence was never around. Like when her first 2 sons were born, and when it came time for my mom, Debbie, to enter the world, he wasn't there either. About a year after my mom was born, Lorena was beaten to death in her hotel room. Rose went to the funeral, and my grandmother was looking at my great-grandmother laying there in this casket. Her eyes were black and blue, and her arms were purple and yellow. She looked like a famine victim. That's what Rose would always say. And you know how people sometimes repeat those kinds of things? She looked like a famine victim. She looks like a famine victim. She looks like a famine. 4 children later, Rose left Clarence. She met Herb. Hell's Angels. There were fights and drug deals, parties and beatings. And my mother grew up in all this. Herb used to give her these little brown sacks, and he'd have her take them to the laundromat, where she would exchange them for other little brown sacks to bring back to him. And when Rose found out that he was using her as a drug runner, she said that she wanted a divorce. He just punched her in the ribs really hard and left. Until it came time for him to die. You see, years later he called Rose, invited her out for a steak dinner, and they reminisced. Herb shed a couple tears, and then while he was cutting his meat, he had a stroke. So for the next few months, my grandmother was taking care of the man that tried to kill her. Then there's my mom, Debbie. She's a real spitfire. Everybody says so. They say that about me too. We got those tiger eyes. But I can stare her down any day. She married this Vietnam vet. He liked to drink a lot. He beat her up too. Beat her up real bad when the Cowboys lost the Super Bowl. So my mom kidnapped me and my brother and my sister, and we ran away to 29 Palms. Along the road, we adopted this pit bull named Corky. He rode shotgun the whole way there, and I'll never forget when we first saw it. We were cresting this hill into town, and there was nothing there. There was nothing there. And my mom started to cry. Hey, Mom, just have a beer. So we passed the bottle back and forth. She said, oh well, home at last. She got a job working at a bar. And the jarheads loved her. She knew all their drinks. Mostly it was Jack and Coke. Sometimes they liked Midori on the rocks. Especially the way my mom served it up. On Marine Payday, things would get really crazy, and they'd start throwing money around, and they'd have these fights, but Corky, he was always there to put a stop to it. And then they started calling him Staff Sergeant and throwing signs. This one time, Corky, he attacked one of our neighbors. And when the police came, my mom hid him in the shed, and she offered to go to jail for a couple days in his place. And when she came home, Corky was so happy, and I'd never seen my mom so happy. Until this morning. You see, we're partying at this apartment. It's my friend Fish's place. Her name isn't really Fish, but we just call her that because she's from the Philippines. We all have names like that for each other. And it's my 16th birthday. And Fish wants to ring it in real big, so we invite everyone over. Tio, Ave, Samoans, Lydia, some jarheads that we know, including this one guy, Valentine. The sun's coming up, and everyone starts to leave except for him. We never really liked him very much, so we try to kick him out. But he grabs a knife, and he stabs Rosie in the stomach. He ties me to a chair. He slits my throat. But not before I can see my mom pull into the driveway. And this primered out Camaro with a big bow on top. Happy birthday to me, man. Happy birthday to me. And I know that she probably saved all of her bar tips, sold a couple 8-balls, maybe some other stuff, just to get me my favorite set of wheels. She always used to say, "We need to get you out of here. And when you get your driver's license, you can just go." So she knocks on the door, but we can't do anything about it. And then I can hear her peel out of the driveway. And that car sounds good. Thanks, Mom. But I'm dead by then. And then I can hear Harley pipes scream and fade on a desert highway. And if there's one thing I know is that my mom is going to find out who did this and give him what's coming to him. She's a double Leo with a Scorpio rising. You don't mess with us, motherfuckers.